Today I'm going to show you why the Porsche 996 is the best generation of the 911. There are a number of purists, also known as a few guys on the internet, that just hate the 996 generation of the Porsche 911. They hate the headlights, they hate the interior, and of course they hate the fact that it's not air-cooled. Funny thing is, the 996 actually is quite a good car. In fact, it may very well be the best generation of the Porsche 911. Now, before you get in the comments and tell me how wrong I am, stay tuned to the end of the video and see if I change your mind. So here are 5 reasons why the most hated generation of the Porsche 911 is actually the best 911. And here's reason number 1, the headlights. I know there are a lot of people who are not huge fans of the headlights, but they're wrong. The 996 generation headlight are different than the round and oval headlights of the past and present, but they share the same design as the 911 GT1 Le Mans winning race car. There are also a couple of very special road-going GT1s, most of which feature the 996 generation of headlights. So to have a sports car that looks just a bit like a car that raced and won at Le Mans is kind of special. Beyond that, the fact that the entire headlight assembly is in one single unit is just great for engineering. And when you think of Porsche, they really are an engineering company. These headlights are often referred to as fried egg headlights. Of course, I've got high cholesterol, so I can only have egg whites. And here's reason number 2, the cable-driven throttle body. Now this can't be said for every single 996, but especially the early cars. In the US, that's 1999. In other countries, it might be a 1998, depending on where you're from. But these early 996s have a cable-driven throttle body, which means you get a mechanical feel from the gas pedal. This was the last 911 to have a cable-driven throttle body. Because of this, the 996 offered the most powerful, naturally aspirated 911 with a cable-driven throttle body. While e-gas is good, you really do notice that connected feel that the cable-driven throttle body does give you. And here's reason number 3, the interior. Just like the headlights, the interior is one of the things that many people hate about the 996. And it's true, it does tend to have a lot of exposed plastic, which is the main reason for the hate. But I do think the 996 should get somewhat of a pass for this, because if you look at Ferraris from the same era, they do have a lot of plastic as well. But the fact that Porsche redesigned the interior was a major change. When you look at the previous 911s, they all kind of look the same inside. In that way, the 996 interior stands out as a very, very different styled interior for a 911. And don't forget the way that the instrument cluster is together. That debuted on the 996, and we've seen that continue since. Now we've still got 2 more reasons why the 996 is the best 911. But if you've liked this video so far, go ahead and smash that like button if you're into that kind of thing. And here's reason number 4, the rear end. In a 911, the rear end is more important than the front end because that's what people are going to see. Other than the very fastest cars, everyone's going to be behind you. And the 996 offers perhaps one of the best looking rear ends in a 911. The C4S in particular is just a masterpiece. And here's reason number 5, the GT3. The GT3 is a naturally aspirated 911 legend. For us Porsche enthusiasts, just the words GT3 gives you goosebumps. The 996 generation was the first time we saw the GT3. With its naturally aspirated power plant, it really is the race car for the street. Since the original 996 generation GT3, Porsche has made other GT3s. Just think of all the wonderful modern 911s that just wouldn't be the same if it wasn't for the very special GT3. As you can see, the 996 generation of the Porsche 911 is the best generation of Porsche 911. The fact that I own one and stand to benefit from the market going up has nothing to do with this opinion. Today I will tell you why the Porsche 997.2 is the best 911 you can buy. In a previous video, I have said that the 996 generation Porsche 911 is the best 911 that you can buy. Many would make the argument instead that a 997.2 is actually the best 911 that you could buy, and here are the reasons why. The interior in a 997 generation was a major leap forward from past 911s. It is a very modern interior when compared to air-cooled 911s, and most consider it a big leap in quality over the 996 generation that it replaced. While it still has plenty of plastic inside the interior, Porsche did a much better job with making it look like higher quality material. Of course, if you get a 997 with the original infotainment system, it's a bit like if you used Windows Vista today. Throughout most of the 911's production run, it has had round headlights. Starting with the 993 generation, these headlights have become a little more aerodynamic and a bit more oval than completely round. The 996 generation took a detour with two headlight designs that have grown in appreciation, but many see the 997 headlights as a return to form. It is certainly a return to a more traditional look. With the 997.2, there are available improvements over the 997.1 headlights, such as the option for dynamic cornering lights. And when driving at speed at night, being able to see well as you come through a corner is kind of a good thing. This one is huge, and it's why you pay a premium for a 997.2 over a 997.1 or a 996 generation 911. The IMS bearing issue has been somewhat overblown, but if you're one of the people who are affected by it, an expensive rebuild or engine swap is in your future, and that just isn't fun. Unless you use it as an opportunity to have the wife let you make a little bit more power in your car. With the 997.2, Porsche redesigned the engine, and it no longer used an IMS bearing. While a 997.2 can still have other issues such as bore scoring, the IMS bearing has received most of the press in modern 911s, which has helped keep prices of the 996 and 997.1 just a bit lower than they probably should be. With the 997 generation, the 911 became a bit more modern with the option of a sport mode. It was also the first generation to feature the sports chrono package. With sport mode and when optioned with the PDK transmission in automatic mode, you get quicker shifts and it allows your 911 to rev out a bit more. No matter if you have a manual or PDK, it firms up the suspension and improves handle. The Sports Plus button takes it another step further and really is only truly useful on the track. At a Porsche media event on the track, I drove a car that was optioned with the PDK transmission. I had accidentally hit the sport mode button when it had previously been in Sport Plus, and I found it very difficult to keep up with the rest of the Porsches on the track. Once I hit Sport Plus, it made the whole job much easier. This experience showed me just how much hitting the Sport button and the Sport Plus button really do improve the car's performance. On the track, Sports Plus really does make you look like a better driver. And the fact that I was able to keep up with much better drivers shows that it can bridge a little bit of the gap in skill. The dual clutch PDK transmission was the first time that a transmission in a Porsche without a clutch pedal could shift faster than humanly possible. The 997 Turbo with a Tiptronic transmission was quoted by Porsche as having a better 0 to 60 mile per hour time than the manual, but it could only shift quicker or as quick as the manual in certain situations. That is, of course, if a professional race car driver is driving the manual and not an average person like me. With the PDK, if anyone with a similar spec 911 with a manual transmission wants to race, you should decline. That is, unless you want to see a full-grown adult cry. The Porsche 997.2 is a modern, good-performing driver's car. It is the last 911 to feature hydraulic steering and is one of the most desirable modern 911s. Prices show that the market thinks highly of the 997.2. The big problem over the premium that you're going to pay over a 996 or a 997.1 is simply finding one for sale. A lot of owners are holding on to them, making it a bit tougher to find that good condition example that you want. Today I will tell you why the 991.1 generation of the Porsche 911 is the best 911 that you can buy. I've previously stated that the 996 and then later 997.2 generations of the Porsche 911 are the best that you can buy. I guess the 991 isn't the best 911. Stupid clickbait. Well, I say a lot of things, and today I will tell you why the 991 should be considered the best generation of the Porsche 911. It's kind of just what I do. The 991.1 introduced the wizardry that is torque vectoring. Porsche torque vectoring, also known as PVT, and I'm not exactly sure why those letters are all mixed up, but I'm assuming something is lost in translation. Torque vectoring works by breaking the inside wheel and driving the outside wheel with extra force to help in cornering. On the surface, all of that makes sense, but from behind the wheel, you'll swear it's magic as you see the laws of physics bend before you. Starting with the 997.2 and continuing with the 991.1, Porsche started to use direct fuel injection. Direct fuel injection works by putting the fuel directly into the combustion chamber. This makes for a much more efficient system than standard fuel injection. The results are lower emissions and better performance. And hey, Porsche engineers have always been about efficient performance. The 991 interior is my personal favorite for quality. It just has a very high-end feel, and that wasn't always the case with past 911s. Sure, it may not be as focused as some other 911s, but it certainly is a pleasant place to be. Of course, it does have more buttons in it than you'll find in a spaceship, but hey, when you drive a rocket, you expect such things. Plus, all of the buttons start to make a lot of sense when you live with it. Since they aren't digital, you're able to feel each button, and you soon start to remember where everything is, so you don't have to look down as much to reach for a control. And keeping your eyes on the road is a very good thing. Trust me, I was knocked out for over 5 minutes due to a concussion. The accident was caused by a driver who looked down fiddling with the radio. At least so I'm told. I don't remember pretty much anything from that day. The Porsche Sports Exhaust is one of the best options you can get on your Porsche. And while the Sports Exhaust button did exist in previous generations, most of them had it tied to the Sports button, or it was controlled simply by driving it spiritedly. The Sports Exhaust button lets things get loud, but in a glorious way. The nice thing is you're able to keep it very quiet in a residential area, or if you spot a police car and don't want to draw extra attention to yourself. By default, the sports exhaust valve is also opened in sport mode, but the sports exhaust button lets you hear that wonderful sound even when you don't want a sportier drive. And the fact that you can turn it on and off will help keep you friends with the neighbors. That is, of course, unless you don't like your neighbors, then you can turn it on all the time. The 991.1 was the last time that a 911 Carrera was available with a naturally aspirated flat 6. With the 991.2 onward, you need to go for a GT3 if you don't want forced induction. Obviously, the performance of the turbo is simply out of this world, but it does change the sound and feel of the car. While I personally wouldn't mind a turbo or a GT2, if you want to give me one, go ahead. The characteristics are very different than a naturally aspirated model. And hey, most of us can't afford a GT3, so being able to get a 911 with a naturally aspirated flat 6 like God intended without paying an extra premium is wonderful. The Porsche 991.1 does hold a very special place to me. Although I had already owned 3 Porsches, the first 911 that I ever drove was an early 991 Carrera S. They are simply great cars, and although they are priced a bit higher than some other options, they are still depreciating and getting more affordable by the year. Well, with the exception of the current market, which is just totally ludicrous.